All right, if you're an MYP educator, you know that unit planning is pretty much the heart of everything we do, right? Well, today we're going to dig into some really big changes that are on the horizon with the Enhanced MYP Beta. We're talking specifically about how global contexts are evolving and what that means for our good old friend, the statement of inquiry. So let's take a look at what the future of our unit planners is shaping up to be.
So here's the game plan. First, we're going to pinpoint the problem with the current system. What kicked off this whole change. Then we'll dive into the two big solutions, a new way of using global contexts and a way more flexible inquiry statement. We'll look at what that actually means for planning, and then we'll tie it all together to see why this shift really matters for our teaching.
Okay, first things first. Why fix what isn't broken? Or is it broken? To really get why these new changes are so exciting, we've got to start with the problem. Let's unpack the challenges that the IB itself identified in the current MYP framework.
For years, the statement of inquiry has been the absolute core of any MYP unit. You know the drill. It's that very specific formula where we mix a key concept, a related concept or two, and a global context into one single sentence. The whole idea is to give our units a super clear conceptual focus.
But here's the thing. In practice, that formula could feel, a little restrictive. The IB's own research found that forcing these three distinct elements into one perfect, elegant sentence was creating some real challenges. A lot of educators felt that trying to make their own school's curriculum fit into that rigid box was sometimes getting in the way of designing the most authentic and effective learning experiences.
So, to tackle that rigidity, the first major change completely reimagines the role of global contexts. The idea here is to shift them from something we just, select for a unit to something we actively explore with our students. It's all about creating much deeper and more relevant learning.
And the tool for this new exploration? It's called contextual lenses. So instead of just picking a global context and calling it a day, we're now encouraged to look at it from three different angles: the individual, the local, and the global. This whole framework is designed to help students connect these huge ideas directly to their own lives, their communities, and the wider world.
Let's see how this actually works. Imagine your inquiry is about our impact on the environment. Through that individual lens, a student might ask, hey, what resources do I actually use at school? Then you zoom out to the local lens. Okay, how can our school as a whole be more sustainable? And finally, the global lens connects everything. How does our school's consumption impact other parts of the world? See how that transforms a big, vague theme into a really powerful, personal, and multi-layered inquiry? It's pretty cool.
Now, this deeper way of exploring context is really the key that unlocks the biggest structural change of them all, a total reimagining of the statement of inquiry itself.
And here it is, the big reveal. That old, rigid formula, it's gone. In its place, we now have a flexible inquiry statement, or even an inquiry question. So what's the critical difference? The global context is no longer a mandatory ingredient in the statement. I mean, for anyone who has ever wrestled with that formula for hours on end, you know this is a genuine game changer.
Now, let's be super clear about this. The global context is not going away. It still provides the whole why this matters for the entire unit. The big change is that it's now separate from the statement. This frees all of us from the, let's call it linguistic gymnastics, of forcing everything into one sentence. It just allows the inquiry statement to be more natural, authentic, and focused.
Okay, so more flexibility, new tools, that sounds great. But what does this actually look like when you sit down with a blank unit planner? Let's get practical.
This new planning chart from the beta trial really says it all. Just look at how the entire planner is organized into two columns: must include and might include. This simple change is such a powerful signal of trust in us as professionals. It gives us much clearer agency over our own planning.
So, breaking this down, the core requirements are still solid, right? You must have an inquiry statement, you must select a global context, and you must identify your concepts. But look at that might include column. Those new contextual lenses, they're a fantastic tool, but explicitly writing them down is now a professional choice. Same goes for specific pedagogical strategies. This empowers you to decide what documentation actually helps your teaching process the most.
So, we've looked at all these details, the lenses, the statements, the planners. Let's zoom out for a second. What's the big idea here? Why do all these changes really matter for us and for our students?
I think this quote from Seymour Papert just perfectly captures the spirit of these changes.
The Enhanced MYP seems to be moving away from a model of compliance and towards a framework that truly empowers teachers as professional curriculum designers. It's about creating the conditions for real invention and discovery, not just checking boxes on a form.
When you put it all together, the benefits are crystal clear. For us as educators, this means way more flexibility and a real recognition of our professional agency. For our students, it means inquiry that feels more meaningful and actually connects to their world. And for our schools, it's a framework that can finally align more easily with their own unique contexts and needs.
And that really brings us to the final question, the one we want to leave with you. With these new tools and this new sense of freedom, the focus really shifts back to us as the designers. So the question is, how are you going to use this opportunity to create even more powerful and meaningful conditions for invention and discovery in your classroom?